you had a podcast on where you talked about the difference between like a side hustle and a business.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they're like this side hustle is them being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Conceptually, I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
You know, it's like the guy who drives Uber on the weekends versus the guy who's actually like starting to build a business from scratch, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think people sort of want to label themselves as an entrepreneur without having to actually take like? Because I think that's like a fun buzzword these days. People want to call themselves an entrepreneur. I mean,
It's
you see it all
sexy.
the time. It's sexy, yeah. You see it all the time with women calling themselves entrepreneurs, or like they'll, I'm a real estate agent. I do I don't know. I do music on the weekends, and I'm also a fashionista, and I'm also an influencer. Like they'll throw all these friggin' sexy labels on top of
Yeah.
themselves, but that actually like, but their focus is not on like one thing in particular.
Yeah.
And I
It's
think,
gonna like for most guys, their first startup is gonna start out like a side hustle. The problem is that most people think way too small. So I would define a side hustle and a half business, one that is not really going to serve you over the long run, as something that's never going to break more than $1 million a year in sales. Under $1 million a year, which again, by the way, I mean, 9 out of 10 businesses fail within the first few years. And of the ones that succeed, something like 97% of them never make more than $1 million a year in sales. So if you can crack $1 million a year in sales as an entrepreneur, you're in like the elite of the elite. And I know that that might sound like a lot of money, but it's really not that hard if you structure the business correctly. So a side hustle, in my definition, is somebody that's running a, quote unquote small business that doesn't generate more than, I think you're going to need something like $88,000 or $83,000 a year. I don't know what the exact math is right now. I don't have my calculator. Surprisingly, not very good at math as an entrepreneur. You have to use a calculator if you're a guy like me. But yeah, the point being is like you need about $85,000 a month in sales receipts to crack $1 million a year. And if you're under that, then you're really just running a side hustle. You're exposing yourself to unnecessary lawsuits because when you run a business, if somebody doesn't like something, even if you have a corporate shield and you've incorporated the business, a lot of lawsuits are designed and targeted to pierce the corporate shield. You're probably going to have a whole bunch of expenses. So even if you're making $1 million a year, you might be running six, seven, $800,000 in expenses, and you might be lucky to pay yourself $200,000, right? That's really not big. That's not thinking big enough. Like there's a guy in the chat right now, and he's talking about starting an automotive detailing business, cleaning. And I've done that. I did that when I was 16 in the summertime. I used to go back and forth, between dealerships, and I'd pick up the cars, bring them home, clean them, bring them back. That's not scalable because you're always exchanging time for money, because you might invoice them $120 for an exterior detail and plus another $60 for an interior detail. I don't know what the prices are today, but that's how it worked at the time. And you've only got like an hour, hour and a half to do that work, and then you're making $200 sort of thing off that. You're exchanging a block of time for a block of money. That's not scalable. So all you're doing is you're really exposing yourself to unnecessary risk running a business, potentially getting sued, maybe dealing with employee issues that are going to be a freaking headache, tax liabilities. If you're in Canada, you've got health care to take care of, all these payments that you've got to make to the government, and if they're not made on time. And you've also got regulations that could completely change the course of your business and flush it right down the toilet. Why are you thinking so small, right? Like you have to spend time at it. Why not spend time at structuring it in such a way that it's more profitable, more fun, and a lot easier than creating a nightmare?